One of the main problems with the drug war that we have in this country, which we've identified, are mandatory minimum sentences, which end up filling already overcrowded prisons with nonviolent drug offenders simply based on statutes that mandate certain minimum sentences. There's some good news along this front, which is that federal prosecutors are no longer going to be seeking very long mandatory minimum sentences for a lot of low-level nonviolent drug offenders. And this is actually a pretty big shift in policy if it ends up happening and if it is followed through in the way that it is now being described. Eric Holder said, "Too many Americans go to too many prisons for far too long and for no good law enforcement reason. While the aggressive enforcement of federal criminal statutes remains necessary, we cannot simply prosecute or incarcerate our way to becoming a safer nation." Absolutely spot on. Is it just PR or will it actually happen? We don't yet know. The new policy, instead of sending a lot of these low-level nonviolent offenders, drug offenders, to prison, it would send them to drug treatment or community service. And when we talk, Lewis, about rehabilitation or lack of rehabilitation being possible, we talked about Ariel Castro, for example. And the idea that someone who commits such a heinous crime at his age, there's really no opportunity for rehabilitation. Low-level drug offenders are absolutely the types of individuals who do not belong in prisons, and we really should just be supporting them so that they can stop allowing drugs to impede their lives. And full stop. That's it. There's no and. Just they should not be filling up overcrowded prisons.
Not only is it a fiscal issue, it's a moral issue. A lot of the time, prison ends up turning these people into a level of criminal that they were not before they went
Right.
into prison.
No question about it. You go in as a low-level drug offender who was just involved with, marijuana, which shouldn't even be illegal. All of a sudden, you are in a situation where you have to do certain things to maintain your dignity to simply survive, depending on the prison you're in. You start being in contact with actual violent criminals. All of a sudden, you get out of prison. You've been away for a couple of years or maybe even longer. You're in a very difficult position. And now you're even more likely to turn to the actual violent crime that never would have even crossed your mind when you
Exactly.
were just involved with small amounts of marijuana. It just makes no sense. And a bigger problem here is the prison system more broadly, right? Private prison ownership, disaster. The fact that a lot of Wall Street banks own significant shares of some of the private prison companies, another disaster given how much power Wall Street holds. And it's all fed by the drug war. The drug war, in part, keeps the prison industrial complex going. That's why you're hearing some skepticism from me that this is really going to be a change. I hope it is. And we're going to follow it. And we've been talking about prisons and we will continue to talk about prisons.